is another concept that students have a hard time understanding. They know the sun produces heat. They know that it can give them a tan or a sunburn. But when you start talking about solar energy in your plant processes, or how it works in the water cycle, or how it's absorbed and reflected when you're talking about the greenhouse gases and things like that, they have a hard time understanding that solar energy can affect things. One of the things that we've got, you guys, is a large bag of solar beads. Now they're white right now because they haven't been in the sun. And I used to take the solar beads and put a few in a cup for each of the students and let them decide to experiment on, how they wanted to try to conceal the bead from the sun, whether it be using sunscreen or using black paper or white paper, or some of them would even use like the part of their shirt, just because they were curious to see, clothing, whether it absorbs and reflects. But when you go outside with the solar beads, then they are affected and they are colored. So these are the white ones, and these are the ones that you get when you're outside. Now, the longer you stay outside, the brighter they are, but because they've come back in, they're going to start to dim. So when you're doing your project, I would lose my solar beads because, one, they'd be all over the floor, and two, some kids thought it was cool and they try to take some to make a bracelet or a necklace. The other thing is they were putting sunscreen and stuff all over them, and it just was crazy to try to wash them. So I was decided that we could do the beads in bags. If you put the beads in these small little snack bags, then you can, and you've got your control, same snack bag, then you can take and you can spray this bag, and you can put the lotion, and you could use different levels of sunscreen, different types of sunscreen, old and new sunscreen. You can even test sunglasses and UV sunglasses versus non-UV. They'll come up with all kinds of stuff, especially if they've got a device that they can research that on. But when they go out, you take the tray and you go outside after you've put everything on it and set it up the way you do. And while you're out there, don't let them take their beads out, cover it up, and then while they're outside, they look, because the sun is going to automatically color them. They need to keep it covered until they can come inside. But if you do this, they'll see different levels of that intense color. So if the sunscreen is bad, then it'll probably turn very bright with the beads and stuff. And if it's not, it's pretty surprising what sunscreen levels do. Really, after about 70, you'll find that they're all about the same. Even if you put 100 on, they look about the same. So sunlight cannot be stopped 100%, but it really goes with the lesson of teaching them what all solar energy can affect with that. Now, the other lesson that I do, and you guys are going to get a big bag like this of the solar beads. You're also going to get this jar, and what I do with the jar is I have the students get out their notebooks, and I'll say to them, what would you do what do you think would happen if I put some dirt in here and a plant and I gave it some water, and then I tightened it up and I put masking tape around it so they can visibly see that it is airtight. And then I let the kids write, and they will write what they think is going to happen to the plant. Most of them believe it will die because they think that we're going to restrict it from air. This is really valuable for transpiration in the weather. It's valuable for when you're doing photosynthesis and respiration. This plant I've had in this jar for 3 years. And you can see when a leaf dies, we leave it because it's giving the nutrients back to the plant. And what's happening is, especially when it's warmer in the classroom, condensation, and you can talk about condensation because that's what the clouds are. And then once the condensation is too much, the water drips back down into the dirt or on the plant. So you've got some evaporation, you've got transpiration, and then you have condensation. But the kids still want to know, and I use this all year long, the kids want to know when I get to plant processes, how is the photosynthesis and respiration working? They get that the sun is coming in. But how is it getting the carbon dioxide that they know they have to give it when they talk to it? And I tell them, well, in respiration, one of the byproducts is carbon dioxide, so it can take it back in for photosynthesis. And it's like a cycle, much like the water cycle. And by the end of the year, these kids are just amazed that this plant is still alive. And then I tell them that it's been in there for however many years, and they're blown away that this plant can be self-sufficient as long as it's got sunlight. But those are the solar things that we have for you. You'll be getting one of these jars, and so that you can do the plant. The best plant to use is a philodendron or an ivy type plant. They're easy.